Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? As Dave said, my name is Jeff Gibby. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I hope you're all doing well. It's good to see you. As we go, if you have questions, click on the questions button, put them in there. If you have comments, anything you have, I keep an eye on this, and I'll try and answer all the questions that come in. So before I get started, I need to make sure that my lawyers are happy. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. MetaStock and its employees shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. MetaStock and its employees do not endorse the purchase of a security, nor are they paid for the promotion of a security. No information contained in this presentation should be construed as investment advice or the solicitation to buy a security. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. As Dave mentioned, my name is Jeff Gibby. I work here at MetaStock. I actually, earlier this week, Monday, started my 28th year at MetaStock. So I've been here for a minute. It was really cool to log in and see Price speaking. I didn't know he was starting with me because when I started my role in business development, he's actually the first partner I actually worked with. Price is awesome. We've got a lot of history with him. So just to kind of give you a little bit of intro to me, I started here, like I said, 28 years ago. And when I started here, we were working at Reuters. I started in inside sales, and I did that for about a decade. That means if you had questions about MetaStock, if you're looking to improve your trading, if you're looking to find better securities, and you just called us, you'd very likely talk to me or one of the other sales guys there. And that was a lot of fun. For the last 20 years, I've handled a lot of our partner relationships. I do a lot of our online speaking, and I've learned a lot because I've worked with people like Price Heatley and just a number of different experts, and John Bollinger and Dr. Elder. It's been great for me. So that's what I've been doing here. If you're not familiar with MetaStock, hopefully you had a chance to read some of the bullets right here. I'm not going to really read through all of them. When I started, I worked for Reuters. Reuters became Thomson Reuters. MetaStock was a wholly owned part of Reuters when I started here. Back in 2013, we purchased ourselves back from Reuters, but we still have a really good relationship with. Now they're the London Stock Exchange Group. That whole thing was absorbed by them, but we still have just news and data, and some of the best data in the world as a result of that. And before I kind of get on with the demo, one of the things I like to kind of brag about MetaStock, I think this is something we're really proud of. But this year, for the 32nd year in a row, MetaStock's been rated the best software in its price category. And again, 32 years in a row, it's been rated like that. So without further ado, here's kind of what I plan on talking about. MetaStock's really good at helping you create and test and understand a trading plan. Okay, it's interesting to me how many people go into the markets and they don't really have a trading plan. They just decide to kind of listen to what the news is saying or what their uncle is saying or whatever it might be. But if you took that same person and decided, hey, we're going to go into business together, they'd probably create a whole business plan. They'd understand what their product was. They'd understand what their overhead is. They'd understand all of that kind of stuff. But generally, when people go into the markets and they're new to trading, they just kind of go in a little bit blind. So what I want to do is I want to talk a lot about trading plans, the importance of a trading plan. I want to teach you about, well, in this case, today, the MACD indicator. I'm going to show you how to test trading ideas. And my main goal is I hope you learned something today. And I hope that you're willing to we're going to do a special offer. I don't do this very often. We're going to do a free trial. You can just try out MetaStock for free. You can see why it's been rated #1 for 32 years in a row. I don't throw that offer out there a lot, but I want you to try it. So let's go ahead and get started. If you've been trading for a while, or if you've done some research, you probably know who Richard Dennis is. If you don't, briefly, Richard Dennis was a famous, I think he was called Prince of the Pit back in the late 70s, early 80s. Very famous futures trader, friend of a guy by the name of Bill Eckhart. Another great trader. They had a little bit of a disagreement. They decided Richard felt like you could teach anybody how to trade, and Bill Eckhart felt there was a lot of genetics involved. And so they actually pulled together some money. They funded a bunch of traders. They brought them in. They taught them how to trade futures. And if you've heard of the turtle traders, that's where that came from. They basically created the turtle traders. And it wasn't a group that was successful. It was ridiculously successful. And one of the quotes that you probably read up here is, I always say you could publish the rules that we use in a newspaper and nobody would follow them. The key to trading is consistency and discipline. So I always thought that was interesting. I have a question for you guys, and I'm interested to kind of see what you take. I'm gonna let you answer this question. You can answer it in the questions box. What do you think is the best profession for trading? And I've put together some options, so you don't have to type a lot. You can just pick one of the options. The first option is a teacher or an educator. The second option, B, is an engineer or an architect. The third option is psychiatrist, psychologist. D is a pilot. E is a performer. F is an artist or a musician. And we already have a couple of answers coming in. The answers that we've got so far are D, pilot. So if you have a different opinion, let me know. Now, I think this is interesting because over the years, I've had the great privilege and pleasure of working with some really, really smart technicians. And a couple come to mind that fall into these categories, like Dr. Alexander Elder is somebody that I have a great deal of respect for. And he was a psychologist. Jake Bernstein was also, I think Jake was a psychiatrist. So I think that's an interesting answer. I think if you understand psychology, it's going to help you in the market. But the actual answer is pilot. And over the years, a couple of pilots that come to mind is Chuck Hughes. Chuck Hughes is a great option trader. And he actually was an airline pilot. If you know Greg Morris wrote a very, very good book on candlestick analysis, has a lot of statistics in it. He was actually a literal Top Gun. He comes into the office. He's very much retired right now, but he comes into the office every once in a while. We consider him a great friend. We love having him and his wife in here. We always take him to lunch when they're in Utah. But he's also a pilot. So the actual answer, though, is pilot. So Ron, you're right. Dave, you're right. And I've put a little bit of thought into why that is over the years. And I think it has to do with discipline. So with an airline pilot, obviously a huge amount of what you do is very, very disciplined. When you go to actually kind of create a takeoff, when you go to take off, you have a very standardized list of instructions that you follow. When there's an emergency, there's a very, very strict routine that you follow. It's a very, very disciplined profession. And I think discipline's important. I think discipline is probably one of the biggest things that can save you. If you have a good idea of where to put in a stop loss, for example, and you listen to where that stop loss is, it's going to be something that's helpful for you. If you're very, very disciplined in your position sizing, that's going to be helpful for you as well. Robert Deal said at one point that you can lose. Robert Deal's another somebody else that I really, really like. But Robert Dill said you can win 9 trades in a row and still lose all of your money on the 10th trade. So I think in terms of having a good framed out business plan and sticking to that business plan is important. So let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about what a business plan is or what a trading plan is. And I figured when I kind of created this, the easiest way to kind of help you kind of conceptually visualize what a business plan around trading might kind of hinge around is to kind of talk a little bit about a system of indicators. The reason I decided to kind of talk about MACD, well, actually it was one of our most popular videos. A lot of people trade with MACD. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about MACD, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how it's calculated. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it can give you bullish and bearish signals. And I'm going to talk about how people traded. I'm going to give you 3 common ways that you can use MACD to analyze a price pattern. Okay. Let's go ahead and talk about it. This is Gerald Appel. He developed the MACD. He developed it about 40 years ago. In his time, he wrote 17 books on investments, and he published a newsletter that's called System of Forecast for about 46 years. And what you might not know about him, which I thought was cool, is he wrote and published 5 books on photography. So let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about the MACD. MACD is one of the most popular indicators that there's out there. Here's one of the things I think are good about the MACD. It's objective, okay? It's very, very easily interpreted, and it helps traders trend in the overall trend. Some of the disadvantages is it can be prone to whipsaw, and because it's using moving averages, it is a lagging indicator, okay? Let's talk a little bit about how it's calculated, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and I'll start to switch a little bit between MetaStock and the PowerPoint here, just as we kind of get going. But if I wanted to tell you exactly how to calculate the main MACD line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 0.075 exponential moving average and a 0.15. He didn't use whole numbers, but if you wanted to kind of correlate those to whole numbers, the closest ones would be a 26 exponential moving average and a 12 exponential moving average. So let me kind of just go in here. I've got a chart of the SPY. Let's go ahead and kind of play with it a little bit here today. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just pull here. We've got a list of the indicators that are in MetaStock, and there are several hundred of them. What I'm going to come down here, though, is I'm going to do the moving average and go ahead and plot just 2 of them. We'll do the 26 period exponential moving average. And I'm going to go ahead and do the 12 as well. And I'm going to actually make these a little bit bigger because I like them when they're a little bit bigger. I'm also going to make them a little bit different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and just get those plotted on the chart. And I'm going to come back in here and make this shorter term one a little bit thicker. Okay, there we go. We've got the MACD on the SPY. Okay, or no, we've got 2 moving averages on the S&P. I'm going to go ahead and add MACD as well. And there's actually the histogram version that I want to use. We'll go ahead and put this on the chart as well. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and click on OK. I'm going to actually thicken these up while I'm in here too, just so I don't have to go back in them. And we'll go ahead and click on OK. Now I've got a MACD. I'm going to walk you through how it's calculated. Okay, very, very simple. When we look at the main MACD line, that's this line here, the red one. All we're doing is we're taking, in this case, a 26 period, well, it's close to a 26 period exponential moving average and a 12 period exponential moving average. We're subtracting the value. And when we subtract that value, what we're getting is the red line, the MACD value. Okay, that's it. I think it's important to understand that that's it. That's what you're looking at, because I think it helps you understand what you're looking at, right? So we're comparing a shorter term moving average, the 12. We're comparing that to a longer term moving average, which is the 26. Okay. That means if we're in start to go down in SPDR, let's just say that we started to go down right about here. I think that's objectively true. As we start to go down, what's going to happen is your shorter term moving average is going to cross under and have a lower value than your longer term moving average, okay? And as you can see, right when that happens, we cross down below 0 here. There's a cross that happens, and you have, as long as the price, in this case the S&P, continues to go down, what you're going to have is the MACD that's going down. The faster it's going to go down, or the faster it goes down, the more pronounced this movement is going to be on the MACD. Okay, if we're in an area that's a little bit more sideways, let's just call this area a little bit more sideways. I think objectively it's a little bit more sideways than this and this, but if it's going sideways, what you're going to have is a shallower MACD because these moving averages are going to be closer. Okay, if you're trending up, again, what you're going to have is positive MACD values because there's going to be more of a separation. So MACD in essence is designed to kind of measure trend. We'll talk a little bit about how you do that right now in just a second. But understanding that kind of helps you understand that it's also designed to help you measure momentum. It's a trend and a momentum indicator. Okay, the faster we're moving up or down, the bigger your movement on MACD is going to be. plain and simple. The more sideways you are, the more flatter. The more it moves up, the bigger it's going to be. And I think just understanding that conceptually helps you understand how to trade it. And if you understand why you're trading, I think it helps with discipline to kind of tie it into a discipline a little bit, right? Okay, so that's the first line. This, again, that is just your MACD level. Okay, right here, the blue line, this is normally a dotted histogram, and if I made it a little smaller, you'd be able to see that it's not, that it's just a little bit thick. This is what Gerald Appel called the signal line. The signal line by default is a 9-period exponential moving average of just your red line. Okay, the reason that Gerald called it a signal line is you can use it as a signal. Okay, what we're going to kind of say is if our MACD is down below our signal line, the MACD is going to be bearish. The MACD is giving a bearish signal. Okay, if it rises up above its signal line like it did right about here, it's going to be bullish. And MACD will generate a bullish signal when that happens. Okay, and just kind of help you visualize that, I'm going to actually apply what we call an expert advisor to this so you can kind of see it. Okay, I'm going to kind of just make sure also, if you have questions, make sure to ask them. Okay, let's see. Okay, so the expert advisor, there's tons of them in here. There's a few hundred, but the one I'm going to do is obviously going to be MACD. The reason I like to talk about how many there are is because there's all kinds of ones that'll help you understand candlestick signals. There's ones that'll help you understand stochastics, trend indicators. There's all kinds of different things that are in here. But for the purpose of just showing you kind of this one, we're going to go ahead and attach the MACD. Go ahead and attach it. I'm going to go ahead and click on close. And you'll see right here, there's a trend ribbon. I'm going to move this down to the bottom just by dragging it down here. You'll see there's a bit of a trend line. When that MACD goes down below its signal line, it's going to show bearish reading. When it goes up above its signal line, it's going to be bullish. Okay, so you can see right here, every time it switches from bullish to bearish, it's going to be reflected in the trend ribbon at the bottom. This is just saying the MACD is bullish or it's bearish. Okay. When it goes from bullish to bearish, in other words, when it switches from bullish to bearish, that just means it's crossed down below its signal line. That's actually the reason it's called a signal line is that's a signal that you could use to go short in the market. And so you see when that happens, the expert advisor is actually putting a sell signal on the chart for you. Okay. And that's it. That's really kind of the first, the main way you can look at MACD. Are we bullish or bearish? If we're bullish, we expect the price to rise. We'd go ahead and buy the stock. If we're bearish, we expect the price to fall. We'd go ahead and short the simple stock. It's that simple. What you're looking at is the comparison of two different moving averages, and your signal line is a third moving average. The histogram, let's see, I just blanked on who actually created the histogram. If somebody knows, type it in the chat. But the histogram, all it is the difference between the shorter term moving average or the MACD and a signal line. So when it crosses down below 0, that means there's a cross. It's this value minus this value. And so you can look at the MACD histogram if you want, or you can look at the MACD. That's all you're looking at, is the difference of those two. Okay. And if you can remember, it's not Linda Radke. I used to think it was Linda Radke, but somebody else created the MACD histogram. It wasn't Gerald Appel. If you know who it is, put it in the chat for bonus points. So let's talk a little bit now. That kind of goes through the calculation of the indicator. We already talked about the main way you can use MACD, and that's with a signal line. But remember, I talked a little bit about momentum as well. You can use MACD to actually look at momentum. You can use it as an overbought or an oversold indicator. And that should be, if we do detect overbought, oversold, we should be able to see that on the chart. I'm just going to kind of take a look real quick and make sure the highlights are turned on. They are. And I'm going to go ahead. I might switch instruments if I don't see an overbought, oversold signal on S&P. I'm not really seeing a good example. I think I saw one on Tesla the other day. Let's go ahead and switch securities real quick. Bump over to Tesla real quick. And this is more what I wanted to look at. You can use MACD also as an overbought, oversold indicator. When we see really extreme peaks, or we're seeing MACD start to go up fast, we can start to expect a reversion of the mean type of a pattern. And what I want you to see is right here where we started to get blue on here. What the expert advisor is telling you is MACD is rising too far too fast. There might be a little bit of a pullback. Okay. There's a huge caveat when looking at overbought, oversold indicators. And that caveat is that the market can stay really enthusiastic for a long time. So what I would always kind of recommend when you're using MACD as an overbought, oversold indicator is to wait for confirmation. Okay. I think you should wait for confirmation for almost all indicators. But if you see right here, we started to get an oversold. Just thinking of my reading here, right here you have the blue bars that's indicating MACD might be starting to get oversold. Okay, and it did have a little bit of a bounce up after that, but it continued to go down. Okay, and it started to get some more oversold readings all the way down here. That's why, and I think this is important with any indicator, but particularly overbought, oversold indicators, whether it's like stochastics and stuff like that, that you use them as a confirming tool, not as a primary trend tool. Okay, but you can see right here we got a little bit stretched, it came back. Here we got a little bit of stretched, it came back. Here got a little stretch, there's a little bit of a bounce. So actually on Tesla, this looks like pretty good, but I would always recommend you use it as a confirming tool. So method one, the first thing that you can look at with MACD is you can look at trend. In this case, Tesla's been bearish for a while. You can see where it went from bullish to bearish right here. And now it's been bullish since the 20th of March. Okay. You can also use it to measure overbought, oversold. When we start to get stretched, we start to look for it to kind of have some pressure to revert to the mean. Okay, and I like the way they word this in the commentary. I'm going to open up I'm going to look at my time. I'm going to look at the commentary real quick and realize I need to go a little bit faster, but I do like the way this is worded. So when I pull the commentary on the chart, there's a little bit of a buy signal right here. There's a little bit of an arrow here. It's not a buy signal. This is just telling you that this is the day it's looking at. And it's going to help you look at the MACD. In this case, the MACD is bullish. Since it crossed above its signal line, the MACD crossed above its signal line 9 bars ago. Since MACD crossed above its moving average, Tesla's gone up 16%. Okay, so that's an analysis on the current bar. It's not overbought, oversold, and there's not a divergence. I'm going to move back here to this day when it was oversold. Yeah, oversold. And kind of just read the commentary for here. So at this point, the MACD was bearish since it's trading below its signal line. It had been bearish for 50 bars ever since right about here. And the price had decreased 48% since then. Okay, here's the range. What it says after that is the MACD is in an oversold range. Prices may continue to move lower for some time. Wait for prices to move higher before considering any long positions. Very straightforward, very very straightforward. I like the way they worded this because just because something's overbought or oversold doesn't mean it's not going to stay there. Okay. And then the third way we're going to talk about looking at MACD is we're going to talk about divergence. Now, Alexander Elder, Dr. Alexander Elder, referred to MACD divergence, or actually just divergence in general in his book. He just referred to it as the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis. I'm not sure we're going to see a divergence in the chart. In fact, I don't think we are. I want to show you how to look for it. Okay. If we were detecting divergence, it would be said right here. Okay. For divergence, what I'm going to look at is I'm going to look at what we want to look at, I want to go back a little bit, is we want, when Dr. Elder teaches how to look for MACD divergence, he wants the MACD to be up above 0, go down below 0, and then set another peak. Okay, that's what we're comparing. Actually, we can do from here to here too. Actually, because you see you have a peak here, it goes down below 0, and then a peak here. And he does it based on the histogram, this blue line underneath. So if I want to kind of use that peak, let's go ahead and look at that. I'm just going to take a measurement tool here. I'm going to draw from that peak to that peak. So actually this peak is a little bit higher than this peak. There's a 28% slope down between this and this, okay? And it's probably a little bit less than that because I didn't quite get the high, but you kind of get the idea. Right there, you've got a negative, you've basically got a line from the peak to the peak. I'm going to take the same thing, but I'm going to measure price as that. And this is actually going to be a divergence So let's go ahead and kind of take a look. Right here, I'm going to call that the high. I'm going to match that up to the high. And you can see very, very clearly this is going up. Price has gone up from where it was here on this peak. MACD is not supporting that price. And Dr. Alexander Elder calls that a bullish divergence. And it's a bearish signal. And you can see when that happened, it started to go down very, very dramatically in the case of Tesla. So there you go. That's MACD divergence. So that's one of the, that's the final of the ways you can use MACD that I'm going to talk about today. Okay. So let me see. Are there questions? No, I don't think there are. If there are questions, I'm not seeing them. I'm just seeing the survey responses. So there are a few things that I like about technical analysis in general. Everything I've talked about today is objective. It's not subjective at all. You can kind of take a look at it. You can kind of see it on the chart and all that kind of stuff. I don't use MACD to trade, but hopefully that was kind of insightful for you in terms of how you can do MACD. Everything about technical analysis, we're looking at objective ways of looking at the chart. In other words, if you get a MACD sell signal on your chart, there's going to be very few people that disagree with you, right? It's because you're crossing down below the signal line. It's measured. It's part of, you're looking at chart analysis, right? When you get the buy signal here, as we did just a few on the 20th, it's going to be objective as well. And since it's objective, it's something that you can look at and say, well, okay, if I sold here and I bought here, would that have been good for me? If I would have bought here and sold here, would that have been good for me? And it's if I would have sold here and bought here, obviously that was a loser. If we'd have bought here and sold here, it's objective. We can see how it's doing. So because it's objective, we can test it. We can say, how well does this work on a chart? And we're going to go very quickly right now, but I can compare this as a method of trading. I can compare it against maybe hundreds of different systems. I can create my own systems. I can get an idea of how well this works and how well it compares. And so very quickly, I'm going to go ahead and come back over here. I'm going to go to the system tester, and I'm just going to select just a whole bunch of systems. So I'm going to do PS. I'm going to do all the performance systems. I'm going to grab the MACD system because that's what I'm showing you. And I want to compare just how well it works. I'm going to go ahead and set this up to run. I'm going to check my trade options real quick. I'm going to start with $15,000. I'm going to trade as a percentage of equity. I'm going to trade 50%. The trade execution, I'm going to leave that at realistic, so it buys on the open of the next bar when it gets a signal. I'm just going to go ahead and OK. And for the purposes of wrapping this up within 10 minutes, I'm just going to start this. OK. What it's done. That was fast. What it did just there is it completed and it analyzed Tesla, which I believe is a stock symbol I put in, against 81 different methodologies, just the 81 that I very quickly picked. And now something was wrong. Let me see why. Let me see if I can find out why. Yeah, these, we'll do both long trades and short trades. We're going to use 500 trade options. Might not be able to fix this, but I'm going to go ahead and change this to 75% broker. Is it that I didn't get data? I might just have to explain this. Let's try it again. Okay, I didn't find anything wrong. It is testing more systems though, and I am getting numbers, so that should look better. Okay, good. Something was wrong in there. I was able to fix it just blindly. But now what I'm getting is I'm getting a complete breakdown of what stocks, what indicator systems worked well on Tesla over the last 2 years, what the profit was, what the loss was. These green bars here mean that a system was profitable. These red bars mean that it didn't make money over the last 2 years. You can test as much data as you want. I'm just trying to kind of give you an idea of what it does. If we would have used the ultimate oscillator over the last 2 year periods, we get an idea we would have traded 115 times. That's a lot of trades. Bill Williams created the ultimate oscillator. It's a great oscillator, but that's a pretty active. If we would have looked at the bear power, we would have made about 40% on 60 trades, not about 39.94. Using a MACD, actually it worked pretty well on the system test. it would have made about 31%, only trading about 4 times based on this version of the MACD. So what we get an idea here is we can kind of get an idea of what indicators work, in this case for Tesla, but I can test against anything I want. I can test against the whole S&P 500. It would take a little bit more time than I have, but it gives us an idea of what indicators work, how well they work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If, for example, I really like this bull power, bear power for Tesla and wanted to kind of learn a little bit more because I think education is pretty key to discipline, I can go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and view that on the chart. So that'll just open. Oh, well, interesting. I didn't have actually Tesla. We did Enphase Energy. Okay, go ahead and click on view. We'll view that on a chart. We can kind of come in here. All of these methodologies that we just tested are also going to have matching expert advisors. So they're going to help us understand exactly what's going on in the chart. And I think at the last count, there was about 300 different methodologies that you can test. Okay. The tool that I love in MetaStock, as I said earlier, I've been using MetaStock for about 28 years. I got a copy as soon as I started, and I immediately fell in love with it. But the tool that I've used most often is the ability to scan. So for example, if you really did like that MACD system and you wanted to be able to find opportunities that exist in the market, I can come to the scanner. What I can do is I can come to the MAC, I can just type in MACD up here. And what I can do is there's that MACD expert system. I can go through and I can search any markets that I want, whether that's here in the US, whether it's international, whatever it might be. I can go in and find opportunities that exist in the marketplace. And it'll really, really quickly go through. I'm not going to let it finish just so I can kind of talk a little bit about how to get the free trial and not go over my time. But I can go through and I can have it eliminate everything that's not an opportunity. Because what I want to do as a trader, I just want to focus on the stocks that have an opportunity. Right now, I'm going through about 770 stocks on the list that I normally scan every single day. And it's eliminating 89% of those as stocks that don't have an actual opportunity for me. I would not be able, or nor would I want to look at 770 charts every day. As a trader, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to use technology to narrow it down to the stocks that actually have an actionable opportunity for me. And that's what scanning works really, really good at. So we covered a few tools. I hope you learned something. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of skip through a little bit here. I'll just talk a little bit more about MetaStock and how to get a free trial. Before I do want to remind you, this year, for the 32nd year in a row, MetaStock was rated the best software in its price category. Only had about 40 minutes to talk about kind of the tools that it is, but we talked a little bit about the expert advisor. It's got a couple hundred systems that you can go in and get commentary on and understand how, in the case that we showed you, the MACD works, or how candlestick patterns work, or what signals are on a chart. Over 200 different systems. You can take those same methodologies, you can test them with a system tester to see what works well, thereby helping you with your learning curve. And as you get a little bit more experience with trading, you can always use a scanner to kind of help you find the opportunities. I trade every day. Well, not every day. Every day I find a stock that I like, but the way I find that stock is I scan for it. I go in and run a scan against those 700 stocks that we just ran a scan against. And if there's something that I like, I'll buy it. And it's just one of the most useful tools for me. So again, it's been rated #1 32 years in a row. We're going to give you a free trial and we're going to invest in you today. So we have 2 versions of MetaStock. We have a real-time version. The real-time version starts at about $210 per month. It comes with, I talked a little bit about Reuters and how good their news was. It comes with a huge product that we call MetaStock Zenith that has a whole bunch of just fundamentals and news and information. If you're interested in really good news, this is the same news that you'd get if you subscribed to an institutional platform, but it's not nearly as much as like a Bloomberg, which is like $2,600 a month. Also comes with MetaStock. Okay, that starts at $210 a month. If you're doing a trial, I'd recommend you do that one because you're going to get everything. Okay, we also have a MetaStock delayed charts. This delayed charts basically will give you a 15-minute streaming delayed updated bar all day long. You can test against that delayed data. You can scan against it. You can look at your charts. You'll be able to see what they're doing. It's just not real time. It's delayed. Okay. It's only $75 a month. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to say you can get a, actually, I didn't change this side enough. Normally, I told you I don't do this very often. Free 1 month trial. Okay. You just get a free month. If you want to do the extended trial, you can do that too, where you buy a month and get two free months. But we're just going to do free 1 month. Okay. This link is right. I just forgot to change the rest of the side. That'll include MetaStock 19. It'll include data for any region you're interested in, whether that's North America, Asia, Europe, whatever it might be. Whatever data you want, it's going to be included. Okay. We're going to help you install it. We have a really good support team. They're going to actually call you. They're going to take you on a tour of the software. They can help you answer any questions that you've got. And it's one thing that we've been doing for a couple of years, and customers love it, because MetaStock's a tool that we've been working on for decades now. And it's so much more powerful than just the software that has popped up 5 years ago. There's so many things you can do with it. So we're going to sit down with you for free. Again, this is a free trial. We're going to give you 19. We're going to give you the data. We're going to give you a sit-down appointment. We're going to give you unlimited access to our support team. And we're also going to give you a training curriculum that you can go through. It's called the Unleash the Power of MetaStock. That's going to walk you through it. All of that's for free. I wouldn't trade without MetaStock. If it's something that helps you, you're going to be happy to pay for it. If it helps you find better trade every single day, help you understand the market a little bit better, help you understand methodologies and technical analysis a little bit better, I think it's going to be helpful for you. It's been helpful for me. So try a trial. You can give us a call, 800-882-3040. You can go to metastock.com/sales-chat, or you can go to metastock.com/festival. If you have not tried MetaStock before, this is probably the first time in about 3 years I'm just like, hey, let's let people try it. If they try it, if they get it installed, if they start to use it, if they start to understand the power of it, they're going to keep it. And so try it out for free. Normally, I kind of go with a different attitude. I say, hey, if you buy a month, I'll give you a second, a third month for free. You can do that if you want. But I'm confident if you try this, it's going to work for you. There's a reason so many of our customers have been with us for decades. Give it a go. That's what I've got. Dave, there you go.